Darandara. Good morning, everyone. My name is Billawarra Lee, and I am an elder of the Larrakia Nation, and I am your MC today. Thank you for being here for this very important event, and I take great pleasure in welcoming His Honour, the Administrator of the Northern Territory, Mr. John Hardy, and his beautiful wife, Marie Hardy, the many custodians of the First Nation countries that CDU has connections with, members of the Larrakia Nation Aboriginal Corporation Board of Directors, Mr. Nigel Brown from the Larrakia Development Corporation, members of the Vice-Chancellor's Indigenous Advisory Committee, CDU OPVCIL, honourable appointments, senior executives, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank you for the respect you show us, the traditional custodians of the land we stand on today, and I pay my respects to all our special guests, my brothers and sisters from other First Nations, fellow Larrakia people, family, old friends, maybe some new ones, and especially elders here today. Australian Aboriginal cultures are the oldest continuous cultures on earth, and a welcome to country is about acknowledging the past and looking to the future. Spiritually, I'm honouring the presence of my ancestors, whose spiritual energy flows through all creation. The Larrakia people are the traditional custodians of the land and waters of the Greater Darwin region, and although our lands extend up to 50 kilometres inland, we are known as saltwater people. Northern Australia is economically, ecologically, socially and culturally different from the rest of Australia. It is home to the world's oldest living culture, with Aboriginal people continuing to live on or near their ancestral lands. The region is also home to immense biological and cultural diversity that has become recognised as unique in world standards. This uniqueness requires protection, respect, and to be managed sustainably into the future. And this relates directly to the importance of the ongoing role CDU plays with its very large footprint across the Northern Territory. The Larrakia are a vibrant nation, numbering around 2,800 people, and we are recognised for our strengths in performance, music and the arts. We have achieved mainstream successes as doctors, lawyers, sportsmen, business people, and we hold senior positions in government and other organisations. We feel strongly about our role as traditional custodians for the Northern Territory's capital, as we are the first inhabitants of the Greater Darwin region. We have lived in the present area of the Northern Territory for eons, and we were a vibrant trading society based on a close relationship with the sea, and we traded with neighbouring nations such as the Tiwi, Kungarakan, Wogite and Woolna. We shared ceremonies, songlines and intermarried, and it's a connection we continue today. So it is on that note, it is my privilege on behalf of my elders past and present to welcome you all to Gwawadaraninki, our land. Welcome to my special slice of paradise, my saltwater home of great food, friendly people, beautiful beaches and spectacular sunsets. Larrakia country is like a pearl with many layers of different peoples, of different cultures, living and loving in this deeply spiritual place. And from the moment you arrived in Darwin, you have been immersed in Larrakia ancestral energy. And as you walk across our land, I ask the ancestors to make your journey in my country a safe and rewarding one, and that they protect you while you are here. And I ask that you walk softly on Mother Earth and treat her with love and respect as the Larrakia people do. So thank you, Mama. We are gathered here today for a very special occasion. It is the ceremonial Memorandum of Understanding between the Vice-Chancellor of CDU and the Aboriginal Nations, which the university serves. The Office of the Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Indigenous Leadership, Professor Steve Larkin and his team, have led the planning of this welcome ceremony for CDU since the beginning of last year. It was originally envisaged that the welcome would be conducted by the Larrakia people, on whose traditional lands the main CDU campus, CDU Casuarina campus is located on. However, after discussions, the event was extended to the custodians of the estates that accommodate CDU's other regional campuses of Alice Springs, Katherine, Tennant Creek and Nhulunbuy. The two other significant regions that CDU has connections to, the Batchelor, Finnis River and Tiwi regions, are also being represented in the welcome ceremony. This is evidence of the very large footprint that CDU has across the Northern Territory. To explain the ceremony that will take place today, Larrakia's custodians will conduct a Larrakia smoking ceremony, and then the VC is going to be presented to each of the regional estate custodial representatives, and at each person's discretion, they may say a few words and or present the VC with a significant token to consolidate the agreement. The custodians of the country the VC is being presented today are, for the Larrakia, Robert Mills, Richard Fijo, Darren Wilson, and the VC will be meeting Tony Lee and Nadine Lee, who will be doing the smoking ceremony. Kungarakan, for the Batchelor Adelaide River area, Dr. Sue Stanton. Yungu, in the Nhulunbuy area, Joelpi Marika. Warramunga, the Tennant Creek area, Valda Shannon and Mr. Shannon. The Arranta, Alice Springs, Mr. Harold Ferber. Jarwin, Waterman and Dogman in Katherine. Unfortunately, Mr. Pedersen couldn't be with us here today because there is some important sorry business happening at home. So the CDU Campus Student Service Manager, Cheryl Godwell, will represent that area on behalf of the people from the Katherine region. Steve and Wendy and Curtis to escort the Vice-Chancellor over for your smoking. It is a very important ritual we do before all important events. It is a powerful way to bring balance back into sacred ceremony. Thus balance is found, desired change is conceived, and protection and cleansing is initiated. A tradition practiced by many cultures, this ritual uses the smoke from burning plant material to cleanse and strengthen the energy field or aura of a person that draws positive energy, while banishing negativity and cleaning or purifying the aura on a vibrational level. Thank you. Please go on over to the breezeway. If you go with Melissa. I've done that. I beat you. I would now like to invite Professor Larkin to come forward to speak.
Thank you, Billawara, and thank you for your welcome to country. Dear Professor Maddocks, as Pro-Vice-Chancellor of Indigenous Leadership, I've been given the honour, entrusted with the honour to speak on behalf of the Aboriginal peoples gathered here today, and it's with much honour that I welcome you to the University as its third Vice-Chancellor. For over 100 millennia, Aboriginal people have occupied the lands and estates upon this continent now known as Australia, coexisting peacefully with neighbouring nations, and prior to the recent arrival of white men, Aboriginal nations had largely experienced the most extensive reign of peace known in human history. To achieve such an extended period of peace, Aboriginal nations practiced systems of high diplomacy. This high diplomacy was grounded in the concept of reciprocity. In its simplest form, reciprocity involves an action of an exchange or sharing to the mutual benefit of the parties involved. The concept of reciprocity must guide Aboriginal engagement with universities. As you may be aware, Charles Darwin University has its footprint on the lands and estates of many different Aboriginal nations throughout the Northern Territory and elsewhere. For us, the university represents a place where knowledges, ideas and understandings of the world may be exchanged and shared openly and honestly to the mutual benefit of all. To that higher purpose, there is much that we, as the first peoples of this country, can offer in the way of unique knowledges, cultures, wisdoms and worldviews accumulated over countless thousands of years. Similarly, we remain deeply committed to engaging with new knowledges, cultures and wisdoms and worldviews held by others. In recent times, sadly, the university did not reciprocate a genuine respect for Aboriginal peoples. Instead, it chose to ignore our rich diversity of knowledges, to ignore the accumulated wisdoms and worldviews that we carried. Today, you and I walk together in song and ceremony. This simple act honours centuries of tradition passed down from one generation to the next. We are honoured by your preparedness to engage with us in this important observance in the spirit of reciprocity. We note that while you are the third Vice-Chancellor of Charles Darwin University, you're the first Vice-Chancellor of this university to recognise the significance of such a ceremony. Professor Maddocks, it's my responsibility today to convey our expectations to you as the Vice-Chancellor of the University, where the CDU has a footprint. These expectations reflect the views of Aboriginal peoples of the Northern Territory, where CDU has a presence. We are constantly told that Australia is the lucky country, but it's not been so lucky for Aboriginal peoples. We are told that Australia is a first world country, but many Aboriginal people still reside in third world conditions. As a consequence of past and current practices of colonisation, we have continually experienced the lowest rankings in, amongst other things, in education, in health, in employment and in housing. We still die much earlier than other Australians, where other Australians are planning what to do in their twilight years, we're planning funerals. But we know education is the way forward to a better future. Professor Maddocks, in welcoming you here as the Vice-Chancellor of this university, we're relying on the principle of reciprocity to insist that in return for your entry onto our lands, you commit to providing the vision and leadership required to achieve reform in Indigenous tertiary education outcomes. In upholding this commitment unconditionally, we expect that Indigenous imperatives, aspirations and interests are at the forefront of your decision-making and advocacy at all times. Now, at times this will be difficult. You will encounter ignorance, racism and discrimination, and these adversaries are sometimes present in this university. They take many different forms and appear in many different shapes. To that end, we fully rely on you as the Vice-Chancellor of this university to do what is necessary to remove these unwanted and unnecessary distractions from this institution. In return, we would like you to know that should you need us, we'll be there by your side. The future is unpredictable and difficult to tame, but if we are joined together, it will not seem so fearsome, and you need not face it alone. The future provides hope for the prospect of change. Together, our story, the legacy of Aboriginal peoples in this university, will be carried by our children and their children, and so on and so forth. May this story be one of equivalence and parity of esteem, of great achievement, of transformation, of great joy and of great success. Professor Simon Maddocks, on behalf of the Aboriginal peoples gathered here today, we welcome you to Charles Darwin University.
Thank you, Professor Larkin, for those very solemn and moving words conveyed to me on behalf of all the Aboriginal people present here today. I am touched and deeply honoured by your very generous welcome. Can I also record my respect to the elders of all nations present here today, and particularly I thank the Larrakia for hosting this ceremony on your country. To the Aboriginal nations gathered here, thank you for welcoming me to this wonderful university with this very significant ceremony. I was born in Melbourne, Victoria, on the lands and estates of the Wurundjeri tribe of the Kulin Nation. As a very new baby, my parents relocated me to Papua New Guinea. I grew up there amongst the mix of Papuan and Ngoilala, Chimbu and other highland tribes, set amidst Western colonial administration and development. In my later childhood years, our family moved to live in the Papuan village of Pari, outside Port Moresby. My father was working with this village to try to integrate Western healthcare delivery in a way that would embrace key Papuan knowledge and cultural practices, something very novel for its time. We were the only European family living in that village. I was the only young white male. And I was ostracised at school because I lived with the blackfellas and all my friends were Papuan. The barb of racism cuts deep. As a family, we were adopted by the Kahanamona clan, and I had the most amazing privilege of learning the importance of language, the important stories passed from fathers to sons, from mothers to daughters, in dance, song and spoken stories, of cultural totems and traditions. I learnt the respect for and the intimate link to country, land and sea that is as paramount to Papua New Guinea's Indigenous peoples as it is to Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. When I was 15, my family returned to Australia to live in Adelaide, where I had to re-assimilate into a white Australian culture. Very challenging for a young teenage male. Here, I was further educated. I met my wife and we raised our children on the lands of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains. I like to think that the ancestors and spirits of those lands, the Kulin, the Kahanamona and the Kaurna, all Ks, have ensured my safe passage into this world, have watched over me as I have made the journey from child to youth and from youth to the man you see before you today. Perhaps it was these ancestors and spirits that have brought us all here together in this place today to mark this important ceremony in the name of reciprocity. I stand before you as the third Vice-Chancellor of Charles Darwin University on Larrakia country, and I am mindful that Charles Darwin University has its footprint on the lands of many strong nations of Aboriginal custodians. The Larrakia, the Tiwi, the Kungarakan people of Batchelor and Adelaide River, the Yolngu of North East Arnhem Land, the Jawan, Waddaman, Darwin of Katherine, the Warramungu of Tennant Creek, the Aranda of Alice Springs, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation of Sydney, and the Kulin Nation of Melbourne. The life of this university, like the lives of those Aboriginal nations upon whose lands it stands, fundamentally relies upon the people who come together under its name. It is people who breathe life into this university. It is people who carry the ideas, thoughts, teachings, knowledges, wisdoms, cultures, and the world views that are to be shared here. And it is people who do the sharing. What use are buildings if there are no people? Without people, they are but empty vessels without life, without soul. They do not and cannot breathe life essential to this university. That sacred task alone must be realised by its people, and for me this must include Aboriginal peoples as fundamental to the life of this university. I am deeply saddened to hear your observation that the university historically has not shared a genuine respect for Aboriginal peoples, your perception that it chose to ignore the rich diversity of knowledges and accumulated wisdoms and worldviews carried by Aboriginal Australians. My guess is that this was unintentional and arose more due to the naive Western view of the source of knowledge, education and engagement. I think this is changing. So I hope we come together today to celebrate that we live in more informed times with greater respect for the importance of Indigenous knowledge systems and wisdoms linked so intimately to people and to country. But we have so much more to do in embracing this respectfully. Let me assure you that whilst I am Vice-Chancellor, this university will work with Aboriginal peoples towards a better tomorrow, a better future that we can hand down to our children from generation to generation. I see this vital task as one of collaboration, of negotiation, and I'm sure, as you've indicated, Professor Larkin, at times of disagreement. The thing about respect is that we can agree to disagree on some matters and yet still work together on the things that matter most. Importantly, I see this task as one that must be done together between the university and Aboriginal peoples, with those that we seek to learn with and to learn from. You have my commitment to lead, promote and advocate both for the parity of esteem and equivalence of Aboriginal ontologies, or ways of experiencing the world, and of Aboriginal epistemologies, or ways of knowing the world, and Aboriginal priorities, interests and aspirations. I undertake to uphold these at all times in my management and administration of this university. We, as a university community, will be judged by what we do and by what we don't do. This institution will be judged by the action of its leaders, and I will be judged by my leadership of this university. Right now, the university has a new 10-year strategy. This strategy has as one of its elements, one of its core elements, an emphasis on Aboriginal peoples, their knowledges, their wisdoms and their teachings. This is an important statement for me. There has been much work done already, but there is still so much more to do to ensure that organisational change occurs in a way that due respect and importance is attributed to the wisdom of First Nations peoples. Together, we can achieve the goals of our strategy. Together, we can and we will accomplish things that no other university has ever done. In closing, I want again to thank you for this wonderful ceremony, for your generosity and for the spirit of friendship that has been extended to me as the Vice-Chancellor and through me to the university as a whole. On behalf of the university, please accept my thanks for this recognition and welcome. And please accept my regards to you and your children. May the ancestors and spirits keep us respectful, safe and well as we travel upon these lands. Thank you very much.
I'd like to introduce you to the One Mob Different Country dancers, and I ask Mr. David Williams to come forward.
Of the Department of Correctional Services. What you meant to see today are community men. They'll be going back to community shortly. Part of the program is keeping culture alive within the correctional system. It gives the opportunity for the men to share stories together. We meet together at least 3 times a week.